We're on 17. And you know what? Let me just make sure because I was gonna double check right before we got on. Um, we are on at 17. Yeah,
Ah, bet.
17.
Okay,
Let's
so
say Julie
we're
Jules. Yes,
good
it's
to
been
go
amazing so far.
here on
Awesome
this
benefits and
one.
awesome supervisors. Good, good. That's a
Nice,
blessing, man. That's a blessing. I'm
nice.
glad to hear that. Um, Julie Jules, do me a favor. So you notice every time you comment and I like it, can are you getting a notification or do you get like some type of message pop up when I like your comment? I like this new feature where you comment in the chat and you have the option to like the person's comment, and I'm sure all the other viewers can do the same. Because Pastor Carlos did the same thing on one of our other viewers' comments on Mommy's comment.
All
Oh,
right, there we
okay. It
go.
just
We
says
got
like.
people with us on
Thank you
Facebook
for confirming that.
and YouTube, so we're good to go.
We're on. All right. Cool. Cool.
Yes,
So
sir.
for everyone who's watching on YouTube and Facebook, once again, thank you for joining us again on a weekly basis. We're on episode 17 now, and it's been really, really good. All the topics that we've been discussing. Um, everyone who's been able to get on and engage and just testify. There was one episode specifically where the testimonies were intense, and that was the spiritual warfare, episode 10, I believe, if I
I
remember
believe
correctly.
so.
And again, for those who are unable to join us on the live, we upload our video on YouTube shortly after the live is over. So feel free to jump in our YouTube channel, which we're still working on the title. It's been tough, it's been tough, but we're waiting on that message. We're waiting on that message.
Yeah, for real. We don't want to just throw a name out there. Anybody can
Nah,
come out with a name. We want that name, for God to provide that name. So we know he's gonna do it.
yeah,
But at least we're doing what he's calling us to do for right now. So
with time, with time. Sally, what's up, Sally? How you
what's
doing?
good? What's good?
Hope you're having a good week. Hope everything is good with you and the family. By the way, I wasn't gonna forget, so I did notice it was your son's birthday. I think it might have been sometime last week. Not sure if I sent you a message because I've had a lot going on, but if I didn't, happy belated birthday to your son. Wishing him the best always. Just hope that God continues to bless him with joy, happiness, um, success, uh, patience. But this is what I tell everyone: over everything, health, because without that, there's nothing. So I
Facts.
hope he had a great time for his birthday, birthday week, birthday weekend, birthday month. I don't know how you celebrate your birthdays, but it's a blessing to be alive, and I just hope that God continues to bless him with many more years, many more
Absolutely.
years. I'm liking this new feature, man. Is liking people's comments in the chat. It's pretty dope.
Nice, nice,
I
nice.
like it. All right, so we just give it a few seconds, maybe a minute or two
Yeah, definitely.
for.
Whenever you're ready, if you got something you want to throw out there, Sally, he had a blast full weekend. That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah, nice, man. We're glad to hear that.
It's a blessing to be able to do that.
It's yep, exactly. Especially nowadays, with all this
Mm-hmm.
craziness, at least we're able to let our children
Facts.
feel, the love, and just celebrate. Aside from celebrating their birthday, is actually celebrating life. To still have another year, to see another year.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
so that's major. That's major. If anyone else wanna, throw anything in the chat, um, let me go ahead and do this before we even get started, man. Just want to make it a
And
habit.
while we're waiting for them to come on too, for these next few
That
seconds,
parts. Yeah.
um, again, if you got testimony, if you got something to say, if there, whatever it is, if you want to come into the conversation, you got testimony you think is going to uplift somebody, whatever it is, don't hesitate. Like, this is not a platform. Oh, it's just Pastor Carlos and Jay Mejia that's on here just doing what we do. No, it's not about that. powerful things happen when you decide to interject yourself in the conversation. So absolutely,
Mm,
go ahead
yeah.
and do that. I know that that's a little bit more difficult for those that watch us on YouTube and Facebook because we don't quite have the integration. We are on the lookout for messages. Um,
Yeah.
but to have them come into the into the conversation live with us is a little bit more difficult because they do have to log on to Instagram. But any way you put it, whether it's a message that you want to send, you got something to say, or you want to actually join it because you're in on Instagram and you want to get into the conversation, don't hesitate to send that request. Try us on that. Definitely, y'all have seen people have done that in the past. We let them on, so we definitely want whatever it is that you have to be a blessing to other people. So absolutely,
Amen.
don't hesitate for real. Don't
Please don't.
hesitate on that.
Please don't. Please don't. And I'm sure we did this once before, where there was this one episode where we had like, if anyone had any questions, they could go ahead and drop it in the bottom right corner.
Absolutely. And we
You
ended up
know.
with a bunch of questions that,
Yeah.
hey, so definitely, hit that question. I always
Yeah.
tell people there's, that it's that common saying that they say there's no such thing as a bad question. You know what I'm saying? Especially when we're talking about the topics that we talk about. A lot of people worry about looking foolish, looking dumb, whatever it is. There are ways to get those questions out there, so that we can address those questions for you. There's not a bad question. There's not a dumb question, especially if you're undergoing
Hmm.
difficulties. There are ways, even if it's through a DM, to get those things to us on the low so that you're able to get that out and we're able to be that support for you that God has placed us here to be able to be. So, don't hesitate on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said before, feel free to engage. Just try and join us if you want to speak on something. And again, if you don't feel comfortable, you can go ahead and drop it on the bottom right corner. You can just select the question mark in the bubble, um, and ask the question. And I even say, if there's something that you want to say, you don't. It's not even a question. If you just want to say something or you want some type of prayer, and you don't want your name out there, drop it in there as well. Drop it in there, and I'll go ahead and transfer it over to Pastor Carlos, and he'll take it from there. He'll take it from
Absolutely.
there. Lodi,
Absolutely.
what's
So
going on, Lodi? What's up?
blessings, blessings.
Bendiciones siempre.
So what topic you wanna throw today?
Man, how many people in here has been suffering? How many people in here has been going through it? That's what I want to talk about today. And today, again, I hope that everyone feels like any topic that we touch on a weekly basis is that push, that injection of patience and faith. But I want to talk about that suffering today, and I really want to know who's been suffering, who's been feeling alone, who's been feeling like there's been a great amount of pressure that they've been going through lately, who's been feeling like it's never ending, who's been feeling like, no matter what they do, uh, it never feels right. It never feels like it's going to stop. Like, I want to know, drop a heart in the chat right now if you feel that you've been feeling some type of way, whether it's good or bad. But we're focusing on the suffering part of it and how hard you're working on getting over it. Whatever that is, just in general. You know what I mean? Just go ahead and drop it in the chat if you're feeling the topic today, because it's definitely something we have to talk, just to keep us going. I need it myself. I gotta say. So again, we're transparent on our platform. Uh, we do this on a weekly basis, no shame. Remember, we're in this battle together. Everything that we go through, we remind each other it's all temporary, all temporary.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of suffering, um, suffering is not bad. It's preparation. Want you to let that sink in. Suffering is not bad. It's preparation. So me growing up, right, that little amount of suffering, it can come from multiple events, right? It doesn't have to come from a breakup. It can come from death, from a family relative, just suffering in general. We look at it as, man, this is like horrible. This is like the worst. And it's something that we really wish that we never went through. But if you think about it, it's the suffering that has really made us who we are today over our accomplishments, over our successes, right? Um, my opinion, it's like mostly the suffering that really molds us and shapes us into who we are today. And there's a lot of us that go through it. There's a lot of us that suffer in silence. There's a lot of us that are open about it, right? And both are okay. Uh, Obviously, suffering in silence to a certain extent, right? We're here to provide information, to let you know that it's okay, it's normal to suffer, right? It's gonna happen, it's life. But we spoke about it in multiple episodes. It's all about the perspective. It's all about how you look at it, how you handle it, how you react to it, right? Because again, it can come in multiple ways. So I wrote down, look at your struggle, obstacles, difficulties, troubles, minor or major setback as a course to teach you more about you than you've ever known before. So I want to read that again. Look at your struggle, obstacles, right? Struggles are obstacles, difficulties, troubles, minor or major setbacks as a course to teach you more about you than you've ever known before. That's pretty deep. So now, when we suffer, right, we think that it comes to a point in life where we suffer, some more than others. There's my suffering is to a certain degree and yours might be more, or vice versa. But for some, it's a reminder. For some, it's a discovery. I think that in all our lives, uh, it all starts with a discovery, right? And what do I try to say by that is, what happens when you suffer? You discover the strength that you have. You discover the tolerance, the patience, right? The faith. Can you handle it? Can you not? It's a discovery that you make, right? Now, when we overcome the suffering and the obstacles, what are we doing then when we suffer moving forward? It's just a reminder of what we're made up of, right? It's like, oh, you know what? I remember when I suffered once, whether it's a breakup, a death in the family, relative, whatever it is, losing a job, uh, getting a job, and you really don't like it, whatever the case is, you've discovered your strength. You've discovered what it is that you can handle and can't handle, right? What you have control of and what you don't have control of. How you react to all of them is the major discovery, and how you continue to move forward and grow in the future. What do you think about that, Pastor Carlos? I mean, I think we needed to talk about that today.
No, I think you're right on the money, for a few different reasons. On one side, you have people that will think like, oh, okay, if you're a Christian, a lot of times you might think like you don't have to suffer. And the very word itself says that the Lord, sends rain. Essentially, he sends that rain, which could be, that suffering, that affliction that Jesus said that you would have. He sends that rain to the just and the unjust. So a lot of times people will be like, but this person's doing all this stuff bad, and they're mean to people, they're messed up to people, they steal, they're just a bad person. And I'm always seeing that, like, they're taking these trips and they got this money and they don't look to be suffering, blah 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 blah, all the stuff, the comparison that people always have, that they don't even know what's going on behind the scenes, but they're willing to compare. And they're not realizing the suffering that the other person might have. Everything might be
Mm-hmm.
good the same way that that person is portraying it, but that person could also be suffering and you don't know, because of what they portray is one side of things. You don't get to see the hurt that's on the other side, right? But that's a lot of times we need to look at that. If you're a believer, you need to look at that and realize that, there in the book of Matthew, it says, God sends the rain on the just and the unjust. So it's
Mm-hmm.
both will get it. Nobody wants a rainy day, unless you got a drought going. Nobody wants a rainy day. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants sunshine and rainbows every single day, right? But the thing is, it's like the rain has to come at some point, and the rain has to come for a bunch of different reasons. It just reminds me again, when we're talking about the rain needing to fall at some particular times, even if you're not doing anything wrong, or you feel like you're always doing everything right, and you feel like it's always a rainy day. um it goes back to what we had been talking about. I think we've mentioned it a few times in the last few weeks. The book of Job, where Satan was like, "Oh, he only worships you. He's only good with you because you're always taking care of him. You're always blessing him. You don't ever do anything wrong." And you know what happened in that moment? God had to go and allow, not sent, but allow for certain things to happen in order for Job to be tested and show that, like, yo, even when things are going bad, I'm still gonna love God the same. I'm still gonna worship you the same. You know what I'm saying? So that's one side of it. That's definitely one side of it. But on the, you know, on the other side of it, also, you have to realize that things are not forever. You know, it's funny that you mentioned what you mentioned, because it reminded me of something that I saw today. Somebody put a post, I think it was like on Twitter or something like that, that said suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So let that soak in, because a lot of times people make a mistake.
that's a fact.
They compound an issue that's temporary with a mistake that could have permanent effects, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be suicide. I heard a pastor say, like, 2 or 3 months ago, "Yo, watch the relationships that you have now, because they may lead to temporary. I mean, they may lead to permanent, consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Temporary relationships leading to permanent consequences." And so we're not even just talking about suicide being a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You have people that sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I can't be alone. I need to have people around me. I need to do this. I need to do that, whatever. And then they're going into bad relationship to bad relationship to bad relationship, when, not because God directed them to a relationship, but because they felt that, like, I don't want to be alone, and they take all this nonsense in bad relationships, and then, like, they end up having a kid in that relationship, which, the kid is a blessing, of course, don't get me wrong, but it's like, now you got a permanent, situation, because you couldn't deal with a temporary problem of being alone, of being patient, looking for the right relationship, not rushing into something, allowing people to use you that really didn't want anything, didn't want to give you something good. They just wanted to use you to receive what they could get from you. You know what I'm saying? And then that has a long lasting effect, all because you couldn't handle a temporary issue. You know what I'm saying? And you're absolutely right too. There is strength that comes in going through the issues. With Job, he got to learn who God was more. He got to see in areas that he was weak. You know what I'm saying? You could look at, like, the disciples, when all of them essentially betrayed Jesus. There was one out of the 12, Judas, that couldn't handle the betrayal, right? And what did he do? He went and he hung himself. Again, he goes and commits a permanent solution to a temporary problem because he couldn't handle the guilt of the backstabbing that he did. But he didn't
Yeah.
realize the other 11 disciples backstabbed Jesus too, by leaving him on his own, denying that they knew him, running away, all this other stuff. But what happened was, down the road, that strengthened them, because they got to realize, okay, God still loves me. Jesus, I got to walk with the Messiah. He still loves me. We're still together. He still wants me to walk in power. He's not judging me. All this different stuff. But that came because of that affliction, that difficult situation. You know what I'm saying? So you really have to analyze that, because you could be looking at something as a problem, when what God wants is for you to, number one, realize that the issue is temporary and that he's got you. And number two, he wants you to be able to have the guidance from him on what to do, on the fact that he's really going to back you up. You know what I'm saying? That he's going to take care of the issue, like he says. But a lot of us, what we do is, oh no, my problem's and I hold on to it, and I embrace that problem. I'm gonna hug it. I'm gonna let it go. I'm not gonna let it go. I'm gonna act like this is a Build-A-Bear that I just made. I made this problem for myself, and now I'm gonna hold on to it and never let it go. And it's like, God is like, for real? You made that issue? You went to build a problem, you created that issue, and you don't want to let this go? because you're complaining about it, but you ain't letting it go. What's up? But there we are embracing it. We want to snuggle with it at night. Come on, bro. We got to stop that. We really got to stop that and realize, don't go through the suffering. Think about and meditate on and ask God for direction on, why am I undergoing what I'm undergoing? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to get an answer.
I like the fact that you brought every single detail that you just mentioned. I had to like take that note. Temporary problems leading to permanent solutions. Did I have it? Did I get it correct?
Or permanent solutions for temporary problems.
For temporary problems. And it's something that we have to communicate. We've spoken about this in the past episodes. Communicating, just talking to our children, talking to our younger siblings, nephews, nieces, because there's a lot of things that we go through that, our parents, and it's nothing bad. What I'm about to say is that they may not think that we're going through it, or they may not think this isn't the time that, they're going to meet a partner, or, they're going to get intimate, or, they're going to get really close to an individual, they're going to be betrayed eventually, or, there's conversations that many parents, which what we learned growing up is what we're going to do different moving forward for our children. It's like, no, I went through something at a certain age, very young, right? And the most important thing to do is to speak to our children to make sure that they don't suffer the way we did,
right?
Because we didn't have those conversations, remember, our parents were focused on how they grew up. They were focused on working extremely hard so we don't miss a meal, so we have a roof over our heads. They were working extremely hard, and they're like, you know what? At their age, they might have never experienced anything, maybe until their 20s. I'm just throwing an example out there, where our generation was actually experiencing traumatic experiences in our teens, early teens,
Absolutely.
late teens. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because every generation is different, and it's something that we have. You know how I get really sensitive about the youth. It's something that I really want to focus on, because when they're growing up, they go through emotions. They go through feelings. They go through situations in school. They go through situations even in their home.
Yep.
When it comes to parenting, when it comes to broken homes, when it comes to simple violent, let's say, just arguments. The exchange of words between parents does affect them. Mind you, it doesn't have to get physical, but imagine when it does get physical, that affects them even more. So there's a lot that they see, and maybe at the time they don't know how to express it. And remember, they're sponges, so whatever they see, they're learning from it.
Yep.
And they're actually asking themselves, wait, is this okay? Is this normal? They're not going to come up to us, and some do. They'll go ahead and say, hey, what happened the other day? Why? They'll start asking. But then you also have other kids where they're not really aware, and they're not going to ask. They're just going to take it in and live with it. Now, when you talk, it's like giving them that outlet. You know what I mean? Giving them the opportunity to go ahead and speak what's on your mind, speak what you're feeling. Why are you this aggressive? We have to get a better understanding between each other. So I'm glad that you brought that up, just to let them know that it's like what I say every episode. Problems are temporary.
Yep.
The hardest thing to do is to find a solution. The easy solution would be to not be here or not deal with it, right? Because not dealing with it doesn't always have to be suicide. It can be what we've spoken about in the past episodes, substances, to numb the feeling.
Absolutely.
Finding that habit that keeps your mind off of reality, keeps your mind off of the healing process. All we do is focus on delaying at times. So it's something that we have to keep in mind. Please talk to your children. I know what I have to do with my daughter, but there's so much that we learn even from situations or experiences that we don't go through. You know, maybe a relative that you talk to, so a situation that he or she is going through. You're learning from it, but you're supporting each other, right?
Right.
And that's how we learn. This is what we're doing on this platform. Now, speaking of the past, right? Because we pretty much are talking about the past. Um, well, before we get there, I want to say one thing. The things we think we won't be able to handle are actually the things that make us stronger. So we discussed that briefly when we got started. Um, and another thing that came to mind as I was driving was reminisce over regret. We should reminisce instead of regretting. So now there's many times where we're driving, there's many times where we're just sitting, you know, in the living room watching TV, whatever it is, your downtime. When it's your you time and you're not so busy like you are throughout the day, and you just start getting these thoughts, right? Now they're racing through your mind, and it's like, oh man, I remember when I went through this. Oh, I like this person, but I remember what I went through with my ex, or you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of thoughts that come in mind, or there's an opportunity that's waiting for me. I remember how I felt when I got denied, and I don't like that. Should I even put the application in because I might get denied again? You don't know that, right? So we start thinking all these things, and sometimes we hold ourselves back to what's actually on the other side, the other blessing. Um, so what am I trying to say by reminisce over regret? The brain is a muscle, right? And we have to continuously work with our thoughts. Every time we get a negative, we have to knock it out with a positive one. Remove it with a positive one. So whenever you get a negative thought, just ask yourself and tell yourself, I don't know what's on the other side. Maybe I should find out. Maybe it's a lot better than what I went through, right? Um, the reminiscing part is remember those good moments. Remember those good moments. Try not to forget those bad moments. You have to remember those bad moments and remember who it is that you don't want in the future, where you don't want to put yourself in the future. And this is general. This is general. It can be a person, a relationship, a job, a gathering, whatever it is. Wherever you don't feel comfortable, do not put yourself in there. Wherever you feel like, you know what, that environment isn't for you, go with your gut feeling. That environment isn't for you.
Yep.
But don't stop yourself from doing other things, you know? Don't stop yourself from doing other things. With that said, look back at all the good and bad and be grateful for it all. Look back at how foolish you were and look at how wise you are today. So you see, I mentioned the negative, but then look at the positive side. Look at how foolish I can actually. Uh, I've been a fool many times in the past. Decisions, just in general. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be as wise today. So I'm super grateful for it. And I'm not regretting. I'm reminiscing back when I was a fool, but I'm appreciating who I am today because of that. Right. So now there's people that go through that foolish phase and they just don't change because they feel good and they don't want to accept that it's wrong, And remember, there's many situations. There's a whole list that goes. There's many situations, but there's people that they just don't want to change. But when you see yourself and you admit and you accept that there's change that needs to be made, what is going to wait for you on the other side? A better version of you. And what happens when you have a better version of you? You actually do so much more for others, right? Because you're not going to be alone for the rest of your life. You're eventually going to meet someone. And let's not even talk about an intimate relationship. Let's talk about the people that you want to have around you, are the people that you're going to attract depending on what you have up here and what comes out of here. Right? That's attraction. Now look back at the bad and traumatic experience and look how you're still alive today. So we all go through something. Some situations are worse than others, right? Maybe the situation or situations that I've gone through are minor compared to yours, which are major, or vice versa. But that doesn't mean that it's not a huge problem because each person has a different amount of tolerance, right? So it is different for everyone. Look back at those beautiful moments and be grateful for having the opportunity to experience it. Now, what am I trying to say by that? We just finished mentioning the bad and the good, right? Now let's focus on the good. There's people that can experience a good moment in their life. There's people uh, growing up in foster homes, not even having their parent or parents,
Yeah, it's
right?
true.
So there's so much that we have to be grateful for. Now, I want to give it up to those who grew up without their parents, or who grew up with one parent, or who grew up with both but separated. It's tough, you know. For some parents, it's tough, but just imagine what the child is going through. We don't know that if we don't talk to them. Sometimes they say things and we want to go ahead and disregard it. Why? Because you're too busy working, because you have to put X amount of hours in, because you have X amount of assignments to complete. I don't care what job you got and how many assignments you got to complete. I got to say one thing. You have this one assignment. It's to take care of self, which is us, and to take care of that child that you're raising. Everything else comes after that, because if you ain't good, if you're not good, it doesn't matter what else you got going on in life. And one thing is, there's a lot of situations where it's hard for us to overcome. But most of the time, we have to do it not only for self and to move forward and to continue to grow, because we've spoken about how these situations stun us. We have to make sure that we focus on the growth and avoiding the stunning of our growth. Now, if we are good mentally and emotionally, what is that going to do for our family? And this goes for those who have kids, and even for those who don't have kids. You have siblings that look up to you.
Yep.
You have even relatives who are older than you that look up
There's
to you.
always there's always somebody. There's always somebody looking up to you. There's always.
And even the older relative, they may be looking up to you for the simple fact that, wow, look at everything that they've gone through, if they know. And look how they overcome their obstacles. And at that age, I couldn't do that. It took me 10 years. What it took them to do, what it took me to do in 2 years, it might have taken someone else 10, or vice versa. But there's always someone looking up to you,
Always.
Anything you want to add there, Pastor Carlos? Because, I mean, we're going deep today.
No, I think the
We're
the
going
biggest
deep.
thing is to focus on the now. You know what I'm saying? On one side of it, when we're talking about time, it's focus on the now. You don't want to look like stay just focused on the past, because when you stay focused on the past, you're not paying attention to your present because you're so focused on whatever it is in the past. The past could be great things that happened in the past. The past could be um, hurt that you got there and you can't move on because you got that resentment. You got you got the hurt, you've got anger, you got so many different things there, and it's like God doesn't want you to be in that, the same way that he doesn't want you to be just focused on your tomorrow and worrying about tomorrow. He doesn't want
Mm-hmm.
you to just focus on the past, because it's like God is a God who creates, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he's busy creating this second, and now this second, and now this second. And you see he's busy creating every second that you have. So when you're focusing on everything from the past, it's like you're not even moving forward with your present. Like you're not paying attention to what every single moment that he's making, you know what I'm saying? And the great things that he's doing in that moment. Because for that, even if you don't, it sounds corny and all, but it's the truth. You don't even appreciate that little second that you had, but there's somebody who is right now having their last breath, hoping that they would have that next second that you
Mm-hmm.
have. So again, it's just a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of perspective, and truly being grateful for what he's doing. You know, so that's on one level. On another level, you're absolutely right. in terms of, you know, looking to take care of self, take care of your family, you know, take care of your kids and all that stuff. Because, you know, I've seen from healthy churches, one of the best things that I've seen is that, you know, there are people that focus. I'm going to give you two different levels. There are those that are in the church who are Christian, and they make everything church, 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 church. Church is above everything else. Like, I gotta do everything for the church, blah, 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 blah. And then what happens is all the different areas of their life suffer because they're so focused, like they put church as the number one level. You know what I'm saying? Then you got those who maybe they're not Christian, or they barely go to church or whatever, and then they go and they focus on something else. My relationship is everything. I'm all focused on the relationship's my top level here, and or my job is my top level here, or the gym is the top level here. Like, the biggest focus that I got in my life is this, you know, this project, this business, whatever it is. And it's like, it's time for you, if that's been you, it's time to go and kind of like look at your life, restructure, recalibrate it, look at what's going wrong, you know, because I'm sure that you'll realize, if you're not realizing it in that moment, you're going to realize it down the road, that that is not healthy. It's not going to be productive. There's going to be a point in which you're going to end up seeing the end result of putting something up here that doesn't belong up here. And the real way that it should work is, the very first thing you should focus, put God first. Why put God first? Because your job, the gym, your business, your relationship, the same way he gave it, he could take it away. The same way he gave it, he could take it away. And you could be like, nah, but what you talking about? Like, oh, I put all this work in. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that think that they put all this work in, and then all of a sudden, everything's good today, and tomorrow they end up, you know, with a sickness that is, you know, debilitating. Now they can't walk. Now they can't, you know, now they got to rely on somebody else to do things for them. It could be anything. Or, you know, like what happened with you and the accident that you had. Everything was good, and tomorrow is like, the impact that you had affected so many different things in your life, but it wasn't even something that was your fault. You weren't looking for it. You weren't causing the issue. You were, you know, it's silly to put something else at the top when the one who makes that possible, the one who makes, you know, makes this happen, is the Lord. That's it. There's no other way to put it. So you got to put God first. But then what's right under God? Oh, that must be the church, right? Heck no. That's you and your family. Because the very first minute, so you got God who gives, and then the very first ministry that he gives you is you and your family.
Amen.
So why do I say you and your family? Because it's not just about your family. Because when I think about your family, I also think of, like, when you're on the plane and they tell you, yo, okay, you know, you put your life vest on, and when the oxygen mask comes down, put it around you first, and then help the child. Why? Because if you put it on the child and you're not good, halfway through putting the mask on the child, you know, the child's throwing a little tantrum because they're scared or whatever, and you're there battling, and then you pass out because you never put your oxygen mask on. You needed to take care of you first. It's not to be selfish. It's not to say, I don't want you to misunderstand and think, oh, it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about, no. It's that you have to be good in order to be able to take care of the family. You see what I'm saying? And there's a lot of people that don't focus on their well-being. So they got mental health issues, and they got all this pressure. I got to provide for this person. I got to provide for that person. It's not just about my wife. It's not just about my husband. It's not just about my kids. I got to take care of my mom. I got to take care of my dad. I got to take care of my cousin. My sister over there, she's not doing good. Oh my gosh, I'm so worried. And they're worried, and they feel all this pressure. And it's like, yo, are you even taking care of you first? Because there's a bunch of people that, in taking care of their spouse and taking care of their kids, they're not good. Health-wise, like physical health-wise, mental health-wise, they're like this close to a breakdown. And what happens if they got a breakdown? Everything else that they've been so busy taking care of is going to suffer because they've had that mental breakdown. And some people have a mental breakdown for like a couple of hours, and some people, like, they go running from the house. I've heard of people who have, you know, who I remember one person, that they made an article and they interviewed this dude. He was a homeless person in California. And they were like, oh, you know, what happened? What happened in your life? And that person was like, oh, could it be that, was it your job? Was it this with this, that? And they were like, yeah, it was just too much. So I decided to just leave
A
everything
lot of
behind.
pressure.
Oh, so okay, so well, what about if we get you back in the job? And nope, not interested. Why? Because they already know that if they go back to that, it's sad to say it, but they know that from a mental health perspective,
No
it's
good.
like I don't want to deal with that. Like it's not like I'm happier living on the street that and not having any kind of worry in the world than going back to something where I feel the pressure of I got to take care of this job. I got to take care of this. I got so many people depending on me. You really, and that's not good either. You have to make sure that you are taking care of yourself as well, you know? And that's not a thing of like, oh, I'm going to take care of myself by doing whatever I want, whatever. No, go ask God. Like, first of all, because God's first, you have to go to him and have that one-on-one time, because a lot of times what happens
Yeah.
when you have that one-on-one time, you will be surprised if you haven't experienced that yet. You will be surprised at how much he can rest and restore you in that time that you spend with him. It doesn't have to be hours. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I spent 5 hours, praying. No, no, no. Spend some time with him and you'll find, just by the things that you're letting out to God, and that you can feel that he's listening, you'll be surprised about the weight that comes off your shoulders, because you know that God's listening. You spending that time, and it's just like just talking, you're just letting go. You're just letting it go. And remember, God knows everything. He doesn't need you to tell him that, but he wants to hear about it. It's the same way that like you could see your kid drawing, if you got small children or have had small children in the past, you see them playing, you see them drawing, and then they feel, so proud of something that they did. And maybe you were observing the whole time. You don't need to hear about it, but they come to you with that excitement, or they come and they tell you that they're bummed out, but you knew that they were like bummed out. They already look sad or whatever. You're thankful that they came to you to talk to you about the issue, and that you have an opportunity. Oh, you're trusting me to be able to hear you out, even though I already know what's going on. Because a lot of times us as parents, we already know what's going on. If you're a parent, you already
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on. Even though if you don't know exactly the details, you already kind of know what's going on. But you're thankful that they come to you and they share, and that you have an opportunity to try to make things good for them. So that's so important. And then after that, you can go to the next level down, where you can go and take care of, your church, your people around you, your family members, outside of your immediate family. You can go take care of the job. That's where you can start to structure things underneath, because God gives us a lot of ministries in our lives right underneath. But if you don't put him first, and then you're not focusing on that family ministry that he's given you, which is the most important one, because it's the first one that he gives you, and taking care of you and taking care of them, you're not going to be good. You're not going to be good. And you really have to focus on that, because there's so much blessing in all those things, but you have to realize what he's given you. And a lot of times we're so focused on the past, or we're so focused on the future, that
Mm-hmm.
we're not enjoying what God is
The
giving you
moment.
in this moment, because literally every second is a second that you weren't guaranteed to have, but that he's doing something in this very moment. And a lot of times it seems insignificant, but when you think about it for what it is, it's pretty significant. Just some appear bigger or more significant than others, but you have to appreciate every part of it.
That was major. That was major. And that's why I had to bring that up today, because I'm sure there's many of us who's going through a situation or situations, and we have to constantly remind ourselves, um, you know, keep pushing, but also focus on you and then on others. And I like the simple fact, because it's something that I missed, God first, self, and then everything else falls under. And again, it's not easy, and there's many people that have different type of responsibilities, but how are we going to understand each other if we don't communicate that? Going back to our children, right, or relatives, if someone doesn't come to us, right, you sense something kind of funny, or you see something that's not really usual. How are you going to know if someone is going through something? Now, if you make it a thing, something regular, to where, instead of waiting for somebody to blow up instead of waiting to see someone that might be feeling down, or they're not acting right, why not make it a regular thing to just you know get just update yourself, have that conversation on a daily basis, or maybe every other day. Give each other the support that you need, just to keep yourself going. Because I think if that doesn't happen, it makes a lot of situations a lot worse than they are, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want to wait someone to have a mental breakdown, because, like you said, someone may have a mental breakdown for, temporary, like a few hours. Some may be a day. There's some people that have a mental breakdown for a while, and
Well,
there are others.
we know of a situation of a person
We're
that
connected.
I think you already know where I'm going, where that
Yes.
person, there's nobody will say exactly what happened,
Mm-hmm.
but there is the understanding that something traumatic happened. And that
Yes.
person, they were a normal
That gave me
person.
goosebumps.
They were a normal person. They had normal conversations. And then from one day to the next, that experience, and who knows what led to it getting to a breaking point, but that experience all of a sudden flipped a switch, and that person for the last what, 40, 50 years
Mm-hmm.
has been not normal. You know
There's
what I'm
no
saying?
coming back. There's no coming
Um,
back.
literally that breakdown, who knows what happened? But the bottom line is that something happened. And for some people, like you said, like we've been saying, it could be a few minutes. It could just be like, I'm so pissed off, and you slam the door and you leave. And 5 minutes later, you come back and it's all good because you relieve the stress, Or you go to an outlet, like, maybe your outlet is shopping, maybe your outlet is playing a game, maybe your outlet is watching TV, maybe your outlet is drinking, smoking a hookah, whatever your outlet is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to your outlet and you let it out little by little, no problem. But there's people that hold it in, and it gets to the point where it's like, what happens if you don't know what your situation is going to be? It could be something where you, even if it's for a few hours or a few days, you don't know the impact that that's going to have to the people around you when you are so impacted that it's like, I can't even be around you, or the way that I treat you is different, or whatever the case might be. But if you keep it going, again, we're telling you from personal experience, there are people that have been normal, and we have seen it,
Mm-hmm.
who never came back. And we're talking decades, decades, to the point that you could easily think like this person is probably like mentally retarded.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that that person didn't suffer with mental retardation. So where did that come from? You're gonna tell me from experience that, oh, it must be that they had some sort of thing that people didn't see. No, because when they lived about like 20 years of their life without an issue, and all of a sudden something happened and boom, trigger, and you don't come back, it's like your mind, it's like you're there, but your mind's not there anymore. I'm telling you, mental health is a real thing. Mental health is a real thing. You gotta be careful. You have to be careful. Again,
Yeah.
you putting on your oxygen mask. I'll tell you. Yesterday, I had when I was preaching to the youth, I brought to them a very good conversation, because we all know what's going on in the world right now, you know. And I brought up an honest conversation. I mean, I think most of the people that are on with us right now are grown. So if you're grown, you already know that times is tight, and some of y'all were probably living paycheck to paycheck already, or maybe you felt like, nah, I got some room, my new job or whatever bought me a little bit of room, but because of the price of gas and the price of food and all this other stuff, like going up and up and up and up, it's like you're like, man, I don't have that room, so I feel that little bit of stress. Y'all remember I asked the youth, I was like, yo, do y'all think that anything out there can come over here, can affect over here? Nah, I can't. And I just had to laugh. I'm like, yo, there's so many things that could happen. So many things that could happen.
It's
Y'all don't
already happening.
y'all don't realize we're already at a breaking point for a lot of people. But how are we at a breaking point? At a breaking point for a lot of people? Go look at the crime rates nationwide. Go look at the crime rates. When people get desperate, crime goes up. New York has had crime that you haven't seen,
It's
crime
been
levels that
ridiculous.
you haven't seen in decades. Here in Houston, we have surpassed Chicago in terms
Wow.
of levels of crime. Do you realize how bad Chicago has been for decades? And Houston was like peaceful. I mean, don't get me wrong, it still is peaceful, but when you're talking about crime rates are high, why does that happen? It's because when things happen and you're not prepared, or situations just don't allow for it, people get panicky, and it leads people to do really dumb stuff that they shouldn't be doing. It's already bad. Think about what happens if prices of stuff go a little bit higher. If
It's
all of a
already
sudden,
happening.
you feel me? If all of a sudden you were living paycheck to paycheck, and now you maybe you were able to survive the last 2 months because you've been putting the money on the credit card, but now you don't even have enough to cover the minimum payment on the credit card because things went up a little bit more. So now you're feeling the stress of, oh snap, now I'm not, it's not that I can't eat, but now I have to buy less, which means I have to eat less, or I got to eat junk. And you know what happens when you eat junk? That stuff messes you up here, and it messes up your health, right? Your overall health, which puts more strain on your body, which makes you feel more stressed. So many different things. And it's like a number of people are already at a breaking point. Things can happen. So I mentioned this because, again, we talk about like putting God first, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't connecting with him right now, I'm just going to be blunt and straight up honest with you. For those of y'all that are already believers and you've been putting off that relationship, like you don't really find time to connect with him, and I'm going to put it to y'all that don't believe, because it's not a game. There will be those who cannot rest in his presence, cannot rest in that he's going to take care of me, that things are going to be okay, and are going to be super stressed because they think that they got to do it all themselves, and you can't. And he's saying, I can do it, but you got to leave it in my hands. But instead of leaving it to him and finding out what he wants us to do, and letting him give us direction, we're like, I'm going to take on the second job, and I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to do that, and all these different things that all it's doing is tiring you out, wearing you out, putting unnecessary stress on you. And then it's like, what happens? You don't rest in him. You're not resting on top of that, like physically. Your mental health is going down because your brain feels weary from how much you're stressing, how much you're working, how much you're doing all these things. Even if you're not working, how much your mind is constantly thinking about, what can I do to kind of give myself some padding, to do all these things, and your brain's constantly working 24/7 on what you can do, and that's why you don't sleep well. You do all these things instead of resting in him, and then if things get worse, you're going to get closer to a breaking point, closer to a breaking point, closer to a breaking point. And what's going to happen when you don't have a relationship here with him, and you've never built up your faith, and you put your faith in yourself? I hate to break it to you. If your faith is in yourself, like only in yourself, you're not perfect. You will fail your other people, and you will fail yourself at some point. What's going to happen when you realize that you can't do it all? That there is no way that you yourself can fix that problem, that you have no solution. You got to be real with yourself. And that's where we get to the point of everything that happens, good and bad, will help to build my faith, or help to restore my faith
In multiple areas.
in so many different areas. And then when those things come against you, it's not to say that you're not going to fear or worry. It's to say that that's going to be temporary. You're going to brush it off, and you're going to be like, all right, I know you got me. Let's go. But it all depends. Where are you putting your faith at? Because if you don't have this relationship here, there will be a point in which you no longer can push that off anymore. And then there's going to be those that are going to be okay because they have that faith no matter what. And there's going to be those that will not be okay, and they're going to have a breakdown because they are past the point of now being able to activate your faith. It's kind of like, we talk about like faith and the difficult situations. We mentioned this a few weeks ago, I think, where every difficult situation, it's like you go to the gym, and and you're doing exercise and you're lifting some
Mm-hmm.
weights, and the next time you do, first time you're doing 5 pounds, next time you do 10, then you're doing 20, now you're
You
doing
start
30.
breaking those levels.
Exactly. And it builds up that resistance where it's like, I can do this 50 pound now, no problem. I couldn't do that before. It's the same thing with your faith. You're building, you're building, you're building, you're building. And so when the issues come, you have that resistance. And now that next issue, you're pushing up a little bit more, and you're going to be fine in that. But what happens when the situation now comes? Just imagine, bro, if we went to go do some lifts, and it's like, I'm not good at it, so I got to start at 50 or something like that. I can't do 200 right out the bat. But over a period of a year, I build to get to 150. I build to get to 200. Well, what if all of a
And
sudden,
that's the thing. Not everyone has the patience, and they have to have the patience
exactly,
and
you have to
faith.
have that patience. But what happens if all of a sudden you get to the situation where it's like, you didn't spend this year building up, but now we're going to do a competition and you got to do this 150? You're going to do that 150? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to break your back doing that 150. You're not going to be able to do it. But why? Because you didn't start when you needed to. And we could very easily get to a point in which the situation, the cards that are dealt to you, is the world coming, the enemy coming. Yo, lift this 150 right off the bat, because you're not going to survive if you don't lift this 150. And that 150 is your faith. And you're like, oh, now I'm going to go. No, you had all your time to build it up. I hate to break it to you. You can't activate your faith in like that in a split second. You can't do it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I can give you a worldly example, right? If you have a partner, a spouse, children, and you've been focusing on work and you've been putting them off, right? There will get to be a point in which it's like, I'm trying to get your attention, you don't pay attention to me. I'm trying to get your attention, you don't pay attention to me. I'm trying to get your attention, and then
As
back and
mentioned
forth and
before,
back and
yeah.
forth and back and forth and back and forth. And you always put it off. You always put that relationship off. Tomorrow something happens and you're like, oh my goodness, I just need somebody to console me, or I just need somebody to take care of me. Oh, I love you. What? No, I'm not playing that game. You better go figure out how you're going to do for yourself. Now, it's not to say that God's going to abandon you, because God is always seeking for us. But the thing is, you can't just turn it on. You can't just suddenly have the relationship. That's not natural. You know what I'm saying? Or even if let's say that you've got some great kids, or a great spouse, or a great partner, and they're like, I am going to take care of you. You might have that doubt in your head that's like, I've been such a jerk. I've been so bad with them. I'm sure they're going to abandon me. I'm sure they don't want to take care of me. And now you got the guilt, and they're not even thinking about the guilt, but you have that guilt coming into your head because you've been so bad with them. And now you're traumatizing yourself and demoralizing yourself because you are so
Unnecessarily.
guilty about what you've done. And I think that's probably the best comparison that I can give, because God will tell you, when you seek me with all your heart, I'm there. You will find me. He's going to take care of it. He's not going to abandon you. But how many people, if you've been putting off the relationship and building up faith, tomorrow comes and things are terrible and you got no relationship, are you really going to have the faith that he's going to take care of you? Or are you going to have the guilt of, I've been trying to seek him this whole time and he doesn't want to do anything for me. He doesn't love me. But he doesn't love me because of what I did, my own actions, all this other stuff. That guilt, because the enemy's good about twisting things and lying to you, that guilt will drive you crazy. And it'll make you miss out on the blessings that God wants to give you, because you think that he doesn't love you and he doesn't want to do anything with you because your relationship with him has been non-existent. And that will kill your faith. So I'm telling you, we're at a point in which a lot of people have to make decisions. Yo, you better go start talking. You better go start seeking, because times are coming where you're not going to be ready. You're not going to be ready, and you're not going to be able to do it yourself. And it's going to be a shame when that time comes that you're not going to believe that he's going to be there for you, and you're going to die. You're going to wither away. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And once that's done, you could reach a point of no return, not because God doesn't want you, but because you yourself will limit yourself, because you're like, I think that I'm too far gone. And God says you're never too far gone. The only thing is that I can't go seek you if you don't want to be seeked. I can't help you if you don't want to be helped. I can't have a relationship with you if you don't want a relationship. He's very much a gentleman in that way. You know what I'm saying? But are y'all ready to do that? Because if you're not ready to do that, you really got to evaluate, because we're at a breaking point for a lot of people worldwide.
Big time.
Worldwide.
And for some people, it might be that they're unaware. For others, stubborn. For others, there's situations that make them the way that they are today. There's also other people that they blame the situations that they've been through to justify the ways that they are today, which
Of
is
course.
every single detail that we discussed on this episode is to avoid that. It's having that open communication with ourselves, with God, with our children, communication overall. Because if we think that if we're the only ones that can handle this, that's not how it works. Some people think that, let me put a prayer out. Let me see what happens. And then what? It doesn't happen. As we mentioned in past episodes, it didn't happen because maybe it's not meant to be. Or it didn't happen because maybe right now is not the moment.
Yeah,
But eventually you're going to go ahead and get it. It's not the timing. We've already mentioned how there's been many blessings that we've received now that we've wished for and prayed for in the past. But then you actually learn, you know what? I didn't get blessed before because I was going to mishandle that blessing. Whether it's finance, whether it's relationship, whether it's career, job, whatever it is, you were going to eventually mishandle that blessing, So you brought up a good point there. And, there's so much taking place now. We don't know what it is. There's attacks that we go through, that we experience. We don't know whether it's because of what's happening in the world, if it's something that happened in school, if it's something that is happening at work, or maybe a combination of everything. And as you mentioned before, the prices, it's affecting us, right? Through the prices of our food, right? Some people are living paycheck to paycheck. People are going to struggle. And what does struggle do? Struggle, for some, may be something that they cannot handle. It may affect their homes. It may affect their relationships. It may affect them to the point where they're more focused on the struggle than the blessing that they have in their home. Some people forget, like even myself, I've been guilty of this, where I go home and I don't disconnect from everything I got going on because I'm too focused.
I'm guilty of it.
I'm too focused on how am I going to get through this, when in reality, there were so many things that I could have gone through it. And you want to know how? Is knowing what you have control of and what you don't. And this really works. Grab a piece of paper. Just grab a piece of paper and write a list of all the things that you can and cannot control. Some people may write 5 things. Other people might write 10. There's other people that are going to write 20 things. Now cross out what you cannot control. And now you have less to worry about. What you don't have control of, you've already taken control of by crossing it out, because it's been so long that there's been no change, no improvement. Let me go ahead and focus on other things. Let me go ahead and make sure that I'm being a good tutor to my children. Let me go ahead and make sure that I'm being very supportive to my wife or husband or sister or brother, relatives, mother or father, to whoever it is. Focusing on us, on ourselves. Big bro, after you brought that up, the most recent details that you brought up, it's all about continuing to focus on becoming better, regardless of what happened in our past, right? I've been guilty of this, where it took me a while to heal. There's been many things in the past where I didn't heal for a while. I think there's even things that I haven't even healed from. But when it comes up, right, going back to reminiscing, regretting, the second that it comes up, I go ahead and execute it by saying, man, I just learned I didn't have any control over that because it had nothing to do with me. Oh, of course it hurt me. Of course it did. But I was beating myself up over something I couldn't control. And this isn't only relationships. This is even work wise, career of choice, things that I wanted to do. But today I understand the reason why I'm not where I wanted to be in the past, whether it's with a person, place, or thing. It just wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right person, or it wasn't the right environment. There's a lot of things that I wanted to do to take care of others, but most of those people didn't even want to take care of themselves. Do we have control over that? We don't. The most we can do is try. Because by trying, we find out, we make discoveries. Um, One thing I didn't want to miss was, let's remember that any mental, emotional, or financial troubles are temporary. Let's focus on executing, finding solutions, and never fearing new opportunities out of the norm. Because when I'm mentioning opportunities, there's a lot of things that we're used to. It's the job that we're in, how our schedule is, right? Whether it's okay, you're working, you're going to school, or just working, taking care of your children, taking care of siblings, whatever it is, whatever your routine is, you're afraid to break that because you don't know if it's going to throw you off. You don't know what's going to happen if you don't continue to do what you're doing because you're so focused on a goal. Why don't you try something new? Why don't you try something new? Sometimes opportunities can change our situation. Sometimes awareness and realizing a lot of things will change our situation. Again, whether we have control over it or we don't. Because the second you know you don't have any control over something, eliminate that and focus on what you do have control of. Is there an addiction that you may have, that you may be going through? And when I say addiction, we're not just talking drugs. Is it that cup of wine? Is it the time that you just take to sit and play video games or watch a TV show? My opinion is this: it's okay to do anything to a certain extent. But at the same time, there are things that we do that delay our process and not heal it. So now we're going back to the healing. There's a lot of things that we do to disconnect that delays and does not heal. So I feel like I've learned this throughout the years. If I'm dealing with a problem, I've been guilty of delaying it by coming up with excuses, by complaining, by not accepting and admitting what the problem was. And sometimes that I was the problem. All I was doing was delaying the process. The second that I accepted God, the second that I saw these prayers, how heavy they were, and how they were answered, and I was grateful for the ones that were answered, but I was even more grateful for the ones that weren't answered. In fact, I'm sorry, I'll take that back. They were answered. It just wasn't granted. Because you get yeses and you get nos. So you got to be grateful for both.
Yep.
What happens when you do that? You're no longer living in the past. You're no longer living in the past. Now you're focusing on what's in front of you. Yep. You're focusing on what's ahead. Because what happens is this: if you focus on your past, what's going to happen is your future is going to look just like your past, if not worse.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know where it's going to take you. Back to what Pastor Carlos said about the mental breakdowns. Back to what you said about the permanent solutions that it may take us to, where some people become suicidal. It can be major what can happen if you don't accept and just move forward.
Yep,
it can
I
be
can give
major.
y'all some very
Go
basic
ahead, big bro.
revelation. There's a reason if you've been stuck in your past, I'm going to give y'all a little bit of revelation here for your lives, and I want you to meditate on that. The enemy, the devil, he cannot create. Okay? So I want you to understand that. He can't create. That's not something that he can do. Okay? So since he can't create, he can't create your next second. He can't create your future. He has no hand in that, right? Not only that, but to mention that the Lord has already given the promises for your future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's mad tight because it's like, why do they get that, but I don't get anything? You know what I'm saying? There's only one thing that he can attack you with: your past. Because all he knows is the promises that God has for your future, but he doesn't know your future. You feel me? He's a
Mm-hmm.
creation of God. God spans limitless, you know, like he's everywhere, you know? He's everywhere. He knows the span of time. He's a creator, right? The enemy knows what's going to happen, but he hasn't been there. Okay? With that said, he cannot attack you in your future by creating, I'm going to make this obstacle to destroy you. That's why most of the time you find that whenever something happens, a lot of times you tripped on yourself. But why did you trip on yourself? You tripped on yourself because of your
That's
past.
me. Yeah.
You tripped on yourself because of your past experience, your past issues, whatever. Because the only thing that he can hold on to, you ever notice that anytime you have chosen not to have a relationship with God, a lot of times it's because you feel guilt about what? Not about what you're about to do. You feel guilt about what you did. Past tense. You see what I'm saying? It's about what you did. Past tense. Whenever you read something in the word or somebody prophesies over your life that like God's promises and what you're going to receive in God's promises, what happens to a lot of us? Yeah, I believe that God wants to do that in my life, but that can't be about me though. Like, I messed people up. Oh, I messed people over. I haven't been a good parent. I haven't done well in my job. I've messed up with God. I haven't been a good spouse. I messed up in this relationship 50 years ago. I mean, it could be all these different things. Like, who knows what you're struggling with, but you focus on something from the past. What the heck does your past have to do with your future? You know what I'm saying? You have to get to a certain point in which you have to realize God says this, that he has plans for you, plans for hope and a future. Those are his words, not mine. That's what he says. If you don't believe that belongs to you, then I have a question for you. Do you believe that he's a liar? Because literally, if you don't believe that belongs to you, if you don't believe that that's something that you should be receiving because of something in your past, so you're saying he doesn't know you and that you're a liar. You're saying that the one who created you has no idea who you are. He knows everything, but he doesn't know you. That's pretty interesting. He knows everything, but somehow you escaped what he knows. Or it's a mistake and he's got to be lying about for some reason he's lying to you about what he has said about you. You're the exception. And why do you feel that way? Because I did all these things in my past. I'm responsible for all these things. I haven't been a good this and that. I haven't ministered this well. I've done all. Okay, who the heck is telling you that? Who do you think is feeding you that in your head?
The enemy.
Because what's the only thing that he knows? The past. And we know that he wants to kill and steal and destroy, right? He wants to kill your future. He wants to steal your blessing. He wants to destroy you. The only way he can do that is with what you did. To stop you from getting what he's jealous about that you're getting.
Or about to get.
Or about to get. I can't tell you how many people freeze up Like the blessing is right there at the door. And it's like, oh, you're going to be blessed with this job. And all of a sudden, miraculously, somehow you get this job offer. Who knows how you got that offer? All you got to do is apply. Well, no, they would never hire me. Well, I just was not a good employee in my past, or why would God give me that blessing or whatever? What? The blessing's knocking on your door right there, but you're letting your past stop you from getting the blessing that you can receive right now because somebody is lying to you and you're, bringing this to your memory about why you don't deserve the blessing that might be right in front of you. You see what I'm saying? So you really have to focus on the right things. Again, this goes to relationship with the Lord and looking at what he's given you and really worshiping him for every moment that he's given you. And trusting him, because all those things that he has said, and again, it's not me saying it, you could go in God's word and you could see all the things he says about you and what you're going to receive. The only way that you cannot receive that is if the enemy is trying to get you stuck in your past, or if you believe that he's a liar. And both of those have an easy solution. Trust in him and know that he's not lying, and stop paying attention to what the enemy has to say about your past, because the God doesn't care about your past. He cares about your future. That's what he cares about. Think about that. That's an easy solution. It's not easy to do in terms of like, oh, I'm just from one second to the next going to get over it. But you have the path set in front of you with the solution. Work on it. It's kind of like, think of it this way. It's almost like if the doctor tells you, yo, for health reasons, you should stop smoking. For health reasons, you should stop drinking. For health reasons, you should go hit the gym. Stop eating that candy, drinking that soda, whatever, the doctor tells you. You have the recipe, for the resolution to the whole thing right in front of you. The doctor tells you. You could choose to not do, or you're going to tell the doctor he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to eat all the Skittles I want all day, every day, 10 bags, king size.
And that's what the majority of people do. You're supposed to avoid these things, but it's so easy to fall into that than to, prevent it.
Or make that change.
Because you're fighting. You're fighting that urge.
I mean, do you get it in your head like, why hit the gym? I'm never going to lose this weight. But what happens when you hit the gym and you eat right, though? Pretty much, you got to have some major issues in your health, which does happen with some people. You know what I'm saying? Health-wise, that it's like certain things in their system just doesn't work right. But that's not your usual person. Your average person, the majority of people, if they cut those things out and the doctor says, yo, stop drinking soda, stop eating the candy, stop eating this junk food, stop going to McDonald's 5 times a week, go hit the gym and all this other stuff. If they tell you that and you follow through, you will see the result of what happens when that happens, because you are most likely the average person. So I'm coming to you and telling you, okay, if you're not buying into the blessings that you have, you got one of two things. Stop believing that God's a liar, or, because it could be both, stop believing what the enemy has to say, that your past has something to do with your future, because God has great things to say about your future, and the enemy doesn't have any part in that. And your past doesn't have any part in that. You can have a moment right now to like draw a line in the sand and be like, now I'm gonna believe what God says about me, and just go. The answer is simple. You just got to apply it to your life. And I want to go back with something that you said. Let's not make this just about you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you should put on the oxygen mask and breathe for a second, and then put on that mask on your family and your kids, right? How many of y'all love your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your siblings, your parents, right? But especially the younger generation, and you want better for them. Think about what you're going through, because what they see from you in most cases is what they will experience when they grow up, because they're going to imitate. They are disciples of yours, right? The disciples got to walk in the power that Jesus had because they spent every day with Jesus. They went They went on, they went to trips with Jesus. They ate with Jesus. They lived with Jesus. All this stuff. They lived together, right? They were disciples. They got to see how he operated to them later on mimic what he did. There are people around you who are so tight with you, so close with you, like your spouse, your partner, your kids. They are your disciples. So if you are a disciple of Christ, they will walk in the things of Christ because they will be a disciple. But let's dumb it down. Let's take the religion aspect of it out for a second, the relationship with Christ aspect, right? If you start following this, because this is not about religion, this is about a relationship with Christ. If you follow this, what's the worst that can happen? You build up your faith, they start becoming disciples of yours, and they start seeing that these things are not going to affect you. That you can have a bad moment, but you're going to trust, right? In the things that you can't control these things, and that God is going to handle it. They are going to later on not worry. We had this conversation once before. And you love your kids, you love your nieces and nephews, you love the family that's around you. What about their kids? When you have grandchildren, don't you want them to be disciples of their parents and again strengthen, build up? Imagine what they get from the very first day if that's what your kids are teaching them from the very first day. And then their kids, and then you will get to a point in which you'll have, it's not to say that your life will be perfect, but I have seen people who have been walking in the faith and trust in what the Lord has to do. It doesn't mean that you're going to be poor and unsuccessful. No, there are very successful people, extremely successful people who, even when they have whether it's a good moment or a bad moment, they trust in God the same. They don't take that moment for granted and they push forward, into the next great thing that God has for them if it's a good moment. And if it's not in a good moment, they press forward because they know that God has a great moment in store for them, that's right around the horizon. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they might struggle in that moment of difficulty, but if it's a good moment, they're waiting for the next good moment. If it's a bad moment, they're waiting for the next good moment because they know that God is faithful. You see what I'm saying? And they're successful in that. Or if they're having a moment where they're not successful,
they'll be well prepared for both.
Exactly. They're well prepared for both.
For the good and the bad.
You probably want that for your life. But think about your nieces, your nephews, your kids, those around you. Don't you want that for their life? Don't you want to change their lives? The generation that comes after that. Your grandnieces and nephews, your grandkids and all that. Don't you want them to have that already instilled in them? Where it's like, I could look at them and be like, they never worry. They're solid. They might have a bad moment, but they don't worry.
It's all about how they, again, perspective,
or you want
reaction.
Them to, exactly. Or do you want them to be your disciple, where you worry all the time, you try to control things that are out of your control, all this stuff, and then you see that your kids as grown-ups do that, and you see that their kids are suffering from the same thing. Mm-hmm. You see, you have an opportunity right now to break that. Because maybe you didn't grow up in a household where that was the case and you don't have that confidence. You have an opportunity to break that. It's going to take work, but the work you're doing is not just for yourself. The work you're doing is also for those that are around you, especially the younger generations who look up to you, who are disciples of yours. Especially if it's talking about your first ministry with it, which is your family. But you have to make that decision. Again, the medication is and the resolution that you need to follow through with. We're giving it to you right now. It's there. You could write it down.
And this is what a lot of people fail to discuss all the time. To have more of these type of discussions, because the more we discuss this, and in even other platforms, not just us, it'll make a lot of lives better, a lot of situations better. It'll also prevent, right? Because there's a lot of discussions that we have where people are already in the problem, but they find a
Yep.
solution. Now, let's say for those who aren't in the problem, they work on prevention, so it works multiple ways, which is why I say it's very important for us to put these topics out, to put our testimonies. We try and be as transparent as we can be because it's the
Absolutely.
only way to move forward. It's the only way to heal. It's the only way to be blessed, to bless others, to heal others. All right. It's the way to do it, Pastor Carlos. So there's a question here.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and read the question, right? And I know there's like a little bit of typo because it happens to me. Like when I'm typing fast, I just miss a few words. So, the person who sent the question over, I'm gonna ask you if it's the question that you're asking, and if it is or it isn't, type your response in the question section, not in the chat because I don't want to put the name out there. All right. So other than prayer and faith, how else would you suggest to get through tough times if you don't have the help or support? Please confirm that that's the question that you're asking. Please confirm. And while we wait
Repeat.
for
So
that
repeat the
response,
question for me one more time. I want to make sure I caught all of it. Besides prayer
um,
and prayers and faith.
yeah, hold on a second, going back. Okay, so I'm basically adding what I believe is missing in it. So other than prayer and faith, how else would you suggest to get through tough times if you don't have the help or support? I'm just waiting for confirmation to make sure that that's the question that they're asking. And I got the response confirmed. Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, so I added. So now what I'm thinking is this. I'll go ahead and give you my opinion, and then Pastor Carlos, you can go ahead and
Go
add
ahead.
on to it. There's many ways that you can do this. First, don't doubt yourself, right? Remember, put God first. Never stop the prayers, right? Because again, I always say prayers are heavy. Now going back to self, right? God first, now self. You want to go ahead and if you're feeling this way, that means that there's really no one around you that is giving you that support that you need or that comfort, right? That doesn't mean that you don't have the right people around you, right? Because we don't want you to removing people from your life and not being it. What I think is happening here is maybe the people that you have around you are unable to support or are unable to understand your situation or situations, are unable to understand you. So what I think is this: continue the prayers, take time for yourself, disconnect from anything that's causing that problem or problems, right? And when I say by disconnecting is stay away from that person, stay away from that environment that's making you feel like that. Go ahead. I've done this many times where I go and sit and eat alone. You know, um, when you do activities, do it all by yourself. Don't discuss your problems with these people because obviously it hasn't worked today. But I think that that's the best thing that you can do is do stuff on your own. Hit up a movie theater watch a movie by yourself because once you do what you really all right. Let's say how many people, just a show of hands, and I've been here in this situation. I felt like I couldn't go to a restaurant by myself.
I was guilty of that.
I felt like I couldn't go by myself because I'm like, isn't the whole point to, interact and, disconnect and talk to some no. Sometimes you need time to think for yourself, whatever the situation is. Even a movie theater. You can go ahead and watch a movie all by yourself. Yeah, you're gonna see couples and families and stuff. But when you start getting comfortable with doing things alone, doing the things that you thought were impossible, that's when you make a discovery of how strong you are and how able you are to get through that obstacle or that issue or that past thought. You know, um, you can go ahead, Pastor Carlos, and add to
The
that.
prayers and the faith, you're absolutely right in those. But aside from those two, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Aside from your prayer and aside from your faith, sometimes it's good for you to it's always good for you to know what God says about you. The Word is a great reflection. When you pick up the Bible and you read it,
Mm.
um, and I know for some people it's difficult because they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to read some pages and stuff like that." I'm going to tell you right now, it's good to always read it, but don't go in there reading it just like a regular old book. Ask God to give you revelation in either direction. I could tell you, I have not read the entire Bible. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But I will ask God for direction on where to go read a lot of times. And He'll take me somewhere. And as I'm reading and I'm asking for that revelation, He's revealing things not only about how great He is, but about what He says about me, you know? And sometimes, I mean, you can also search on Google about like what God says about you, what He says about your situation. It's good for you to write them down and read them to remind yourself what God says about you. So um, from a going and seeking him perspective, right? In terms of a going and seeking him perspective, because it is important for you to go seek him. It's not just about praying, but it's about really going and seeking him with all your heart, because you are going to find him. He promises that, and I've seen it happen. But now let's also go from a perspective of something that you can see, something that you can be like, I can actually receive it, I can see it, I can hear it, I can touch it, all that stuff, right? That's why it's important as well to um, ask God for direction in terms of church or people to connect with who are believers. I'm going to tell you why. His very word says, when in terms of like going to church, right? In terms of connecting with a church and fellowshipping with a church, it tells you, let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works, and let us not neglect. So don't neglect, don't push it to the side, meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, because that's part of the whole fellowship. And I know sometimes with family, you don't want to tell them because you don't want them to worry. Friends, you don't tell them because you don't want them to worry. And believe me, because I have been there. I've been there.
Yeah.
And that's why you take a lot of it on yourself and you don't share the things that like you're dealing with, because it's like, or that you're trying to manage because you don't want people to worry. You're trying to manage it, and in the hopes that like, okay, nobody's going to notice, and then one day it's just going to flip. You know what I'm saying? But that's also why it's important, because when you connect with other people, you remember the example that I gave about the candles. When you go and you isolate yourself
Mm-hmm.
and you put a jar over that candle's going to stay lit for a little bit, and give it about a minute, 2 minutes, and the light goes out. But if you have it around other candles, if that light goes out, another candle can light you up.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And the air that you're together with is going to keep it on. You know what I'm saying? Is going to continue to keep it on.
I have a good video on that too, on that
You know,
analogy. That was nice, man.
so it's one of those things where it's like you need to look at it from that perspective, because it's important to connect with other people. Because if you feel like you can't do it with your friends and your family, I understand it. Believe me, because I've been there. I understand it. You don't want them to worry. But if you are connecting with if you're connecting and fellowshipping with the church, you can find people, you can find groups, you can put in prayer requests and know that people are praying for you. Those very same people, God will direct them. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people um, that I've been blessed with, that have blessed me with resources, that have blessed me with a prayer, that have blessed me with a word. And it's because God reveals something to them that I've never even shared with them. But I know it was God talking through them. And it's like, man, that really wasn't what I needed in that moment. You know what I'm saying? And nobody else knows. So that's very, very, very important, is to be able to do that, because that's going to help to pick you up. And another thing that, in that is, it's not just about connecting with other people, but the word itself says, where two or three gather together, as my followers, I am there among them, meaning the Lord is there among them. There is something that happens in your life with your situation, and the moments that you can have where you're like really feeling down about it, that you go somewhere and there's a few people that are, whether it's a few people or it's a group of people, but all of a sudden you feel that God's presence comes in, and you walk away from that like, wow, like, I know that he was here. And it's like, at that moment, you are not even thinking about your problem anymore, because you
Mm-hmm.
know that he was there, and because you felt his presence, It was, you felt his comfort, you felt his rest. It was like, yeah, I got this problem, but I feel at peace. Like, for what? It doesn't even matter anymore. You know, yes, it's real. I'm going to deal with it. God is dealing with it. It is a difficult situation, but there's something about having that moment of peace. It's kind of like when you go through a desert and you hear of like the oasis where like you might suddenly have some trees and a little bit of water, and you might have miles to walk in the desert, but you stop there and you rest and you're under the shade, you drink a little bit of water, you know, you might take a little nap under that tree, whatever, and then you decide to keep walking. That little bit of time that you were there refreshes you. You're good. You feel replenished. You feel like, yo, I can walk another few miles in this, and I'm hoping that I can find another oasis down the road. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's what it's like when you decide, you know what, let me seek that part. It's so important because let me tell you, if you believe and you pray and everything, that's good and all because you have a relationship, and the relationship you have with God is the most important thing that you can have. That's even more important than church. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't live without church. The church part is great because you can't see God. You can experience him, but you can't see him. And for a lot of us as human beings, if I can't see it, man, that makes it real difficult. It makes it real, real difficult. But if I have the other aspect of it to help push me up, you'll just be surprised at how that can change your life. So I just encourage you. And it's not just that. The same way that we come on the platform and we always tell people, yo, if you're feeling it, if you need to reach out to us, if you need prayer,
Yeah.
if you want us to connect with you, whatever, hit us up. We're there. It's for that reason too, because there are people that are willing, that God will put in your road, that are going to help you for those moments where you feel alone. But God has put us there in trusting us that when those people need, I have placed them there to help
Mm-hmm.
lift you up so that you can feel my presence. You know, so I just pray that that's revelation over your life. And know that, you know, beginning with us on this platform here, God, we're on this not because, oh, we want views and we want money and we want this and we
Nah,
want that. We haven't
nah.
gotten not a cent, and we haven't, you know, and the views have been good. They've been whatever, you know, but it's not about that. We're here because God said, even without a title, I'll give you the title at some point. But there are people that need to receive what I have already. That's what it's about. So, you know, test us on that. If you feel that way, test us on that, and also go find, you know, try to find a church or something, because believe me, having something in person would be great. But believe me, there's a ton of churches out there that if you wanted to do it electronic and connect, even with electronic groups and everything,
Virtual.
that exists too. That exists
Yeah.
too. Having a connection with a body of Christ has never been more accessible than what it is right now. You're never going
Yeah.
to have it as accessible.
And you know, another thing I wanted to add to what I was mentioning before, aside from like, you know, stepping out by yourself, hitting up a restaurant, hitting up a movie theater, and what I'm hoping is that this is answering your question, you know, to the viewer who asked that. Even a simple walk, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A bike ride, a gym, and don't even do the gym to become a gym rat. You go there to put your body, to put yourself in so much pain, where you're focusing on just improving your situation, yourself, disconnecting. You know, because what happens is when you exercise, especially being under so much pressure or going through so much, you actually relieve stress doing it. You know, there's many other ways. Um, you relieve a lot of stress doing that. And that's the most important thing. Like you said, when you're in a desert and you pick that one spot to rest, it's that moment where it's just that push to keep going. Our platform is for that. Is to give each other support, is to give that injection of just patience, faith, motivation, inspiration. Um, you never know what your story can do for someone else. The same way our testimonies, the time that we take out to get on this platform, and you know, it was God sent. I know it's not something that we just came up with. No, we are here. We're assigned to do this and so much more, because we're actually gonna grow. We're gonna make this platform so much more than what it is now, which is just alive. You know, it's gonna be major. It's gonna be major what we're gonna do eventually. I want to go back also to that question. Um, to finalize the question, is what I said earlier. Let's focus on executing, finding solutions, and never overlooking or fearing opportunities. Out of the norm, what you consider normal or a routine, break it, because maybe that's exactly what you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's something that you need. Maybe it's the routine that's killing you, because when you're doing something over and over and nothing different, what happens if you never travel? How are you going to feel? Usually when you travel, you feel like you disconnect, you relieve, because you're not in the same place. You're in a different place, different type of air, different type of people around you. Obviously, your activities and what you do on vacation determines how your vacation is going to go, right? But the whole point of the vacation is to enjoy yourself, right? To get the right amount of rest that you need. If you're the type of person, because of kids and responsibilities, to only get 4 hours of sleep or five, hopefully on a vacation you're getting 7 to 8.
Yep.
You know, most of us go on vacation, and we need a vacation from the vacation, right? But what can we do to fix that? You know what? Let's make that a regular. Every 6 months, I'm gonna go ahead and break the routine, depending on what your situation is. Let me go ahead and take a vacation. And when I say a vacation, it doesn't always have to be a week, 2 weeks away. A simple weekend can do so much for you, the same way a week vacation can do. And
Yep.
we underestimate that, even if it's just going away for a day to do something different, even that'll reset your mind to remind you that life isn't what it is right now and everything that you have in it. There's so much more out there, outside of your norm.
Yep.
And I've been guilty of that. So, for the viewer, I'm hoping that that answered your question. I'm hoping that that answered your question. Let me just make sure. Jolly, this is amazing. Thank you. A lot more people should be on here listening to you guys. Jolly Prima, thank you so much. I love you.
Yeah,
Uh,
appreciate that,
for the
Primo.
simple, yeah, for the simple fact that you're here, taking the time out to join us. um, you don't know what that means to us. And eventually it's going to get there, which is why we encourage people to share our platform, share our live while you're on it. I believe there's an option on the bottom right corner to share the live video. Um, Even YouTube videos, take a clip and go ahead and send it to someone else. You never know the message, whether it's a clip of Pastor Carlos speaking or a clip of myself speaking. You don't know what that message is going to do for others.
Yeah. If there's
We
something that you
upload.
feel was impacting to you today, just know YouTube's got it. Like, I know a lot of people maybe don't like to mess with Facebook or Instagram. YouTube's got a nice little feature where you literally just hit like clip, you could take apart and then just send it to somebody. It's there. So, take advantage of little things like that, because you don't know who can need it. Absolutely. And again, if you have, more questions, anybody has questions, make sure to drop one, before we wrap up, or if you've got something to say, you have an opportunity right now as well, whether it's testimony or something that you got to say,
Yeah.
to hit, to request to join. And we always encourage it. We've seen so many people that have been impacted by something that we didn't even say, that somebody else had said in a comment, or going and joining the live itself. So if you do have something, don't keep it to yourself. Don't think that you're insignificant, that you have nothing to bring to the table. If you feel that the God is putting something in you, put it out, because a lot of times what he's giving you in that moment, he's giving it with a purpose. He's not just giving it to you for no reason. So we want to encourage that, to help y'all build other people up, because we're all called to do that. What you see that we're doing, we're all called to build others up. We're all called um, to prophesy that life into people. We have that. It may not necessarily be a spiritual gift that we have, but it's something that we can do. Even if it's with God's own word. So
Amen.
a lot of things that you hear tonight, where it's like, oh, God says this about you, God says that about you. Know that those are things that even if you don't have that like ability, like that God has given you that like that particular gift, you have what God has said. You can say it to somebody else. That's prophesying to somebody else. And you'll be surprised at how what you let out that God says about other people, how that will build up and give people life. So just, just know that it's about letting you guys know that that
Amen.
is something that you have available to you. So we encourage
Amen.
that. We encourage that.
And just real quick, we'll give it a few minutes if anyone wants to put anything in the chat. If they want to go ahead, before we disconnect, if they want to, drop another question in the bottom right corner. If you want to keep that private, and I can put it out, just drop a heart if you felt the message tonight. Drop a heart if you feel our messages on a weekly basis when you're on. Like really drop a heart. And for those like especially Javi, she mentioned how it felt like we were talking directly to her. That was God talking through us. He sent you over because maybe you just needed to hear it, and I'm sure that goes for many people as well.
His timing is always perfect. His timing is always always
And then we
perfect.
got
When you mentioned about like some prayers that weren't answered and stuff like that, you never know. God's timing is always perfect, always perfect. If you feel like you've been waiting for that response, you haven't gotten it yet. I mean, I've heard testimonies, especially here in the last couple of weeks, of people that have gotten a response that they've been waiting for months or for a couple of years.
yeah.
And they're now getting the response, and now it's clicking. Now they're understanding why God didn't respond before. It's because he already made the way and prepared the blessing. It's just that wasn't the time. You know what I'm saying? There was a set time, and now you go and you ask those people, and they're like, now I understand it, and now I'm not even mad. You know what I'm saying? Where I was
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, where I was losing my faith, where I was disconnected, where I was upset, I ain't even mad anymore. This was made so perfect for me that it's like I can't even be mad. You know. In fact, I kind of feel the word you used earlier. You feel foolish because it's like,
Foolish
man,
phase.
I've heard that that's how it is, and I know that that's how it is, but I had no patience, and I let that get the best of me. But now it's
Yeah.
like I got to see it firsthand. What was I doing? You know, and
Yeah.
thankfully, in the case of those people, that has been used to build them up, and now it's like there's more trust. Again, it's that muscle. You're going ahead and you're lifting that weight, and you're able to pick up more and more and more. What those people have shared, it's like now it gives them more trust that like I know he's doing what he needs to do, and I'm okay, no matter the
Mm-hmm.
circumstance. It doesn't mean that they're not going to trip and fall and do something similar next time. It just means it will probably take a whole lot more before they worry, and that's what it's about. He will perfect you. So he will
Man.
perfect you.
And we have let me see, let me see, designer, you're always speaking motivational stuff. Love the vibe. Uh thank you. Really appreciate that. We definitely love the fact that you join us and that you're just keeping up with the material, the topics that we put out, the videos that we put out. And as I mentioned before, like even I've been doing this for a while where it's just posting motivational videos because I'm sure if there's anything that I'm going through, someone else might need it. And even if I'm not going through that specific situation or going through something, I feel like we still need those motivational, inspirational videos. It's what keeps us going, right? There's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of pictures that we go through, but what more than a motivational video to give you that push the second you wake up and you see that, or if you're midday on your lunch break or, taking a break, whatever it is, and you watch that video and you're feeling some type of way, but you watch it and you're like, man, this is exactly what I needed to hear
Yep.
versus me having to like post a fight because I'm not here for the views. Pastor Carlos ain't here for the views. We're not here for the views, right? There's no reason for me to post, this time and time that I put like, you know, innocent, funny videos because they're hilarious and maybe you need that good laugh. But I focus more on the motivational, inspirational. I had someone tell me, man, listen, just keep putting these videos up, keep doing what you guys are doing. Um, there's people giving more attention to what they really don't have to give attention to, which is fights, violence, and so forth. again, we're not here for the views. So
Yep.
we
Listen,
really
we had
appreciate
100
that.
views and not one person's life was changed. If we had to compare that with one
It doesn't
person,
mean anything.
yeah, one person watches like in a span of like 3 or 4 weeks, but that person comes and their life is forever transformed. I'll take that one compared to that 100 any day of the week. Any day of the week. That's an automatic. But
Yeah,
at the same time, we know that God is going to have the right people who need to receive what he wants to tell them. We know that he'll have them connect. We trust him in that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's like we're not focused on views. We're not focused on numbers. There's a lot of things that we could do to push out and make, algorithms work and all this other stuff that get
yeah,
people pushed up on views. We ain't doing all that because that's not what it's about. We know that God's going to bring the right people at the right time, and the same way that if it's his will that at some point it is going to blow up and a ton of people are going to receive. We've seen people that have done that, where God all of a sudden, after 5 years of making videos, nothing happens, and one day, one message that God gives or one thing that God does, all of a sudden causes 1 million people to watch. It ain't about us. It's about God doing what he wants to do. And if that's with 1 view or 1 million views, if he ain't in it, we don't care. We're not interested. That's not what we're not
and
here for self.
eventually, I know we're gonna have just like everyone that's watching us now and that's always joining us, uh, or watching our videos on YouTube. Because you don't really have to be on the live, but the fact that you guys are on now, we really appreciate that. We're gonna have the right supporters eventually, and what we're
Absolutely.
gonna be doing for all of us, what we're gonna be doing for our children. When I say our children is also your children. Because you can actually have your children watch these videos. They're super friendly. Uh, it's an open platform to make sure that our well-being is up to par, that it's on
Absolutely.
point. It's on point. That's our main focus with our videos, our platform. So I know we're gonna have the right people supporting us. It's gonna be a major platform eventually. Um, like you have no idea. I have the vision. I can see it already. I feel it, and it's not a feeling that I've been getting now, even before starting our platform. Like it's what I had. It's just it wasn't the right time before. And I want to put one detail out. The reason why I didn't personally start this before is because I wasn't mature enough. You know, at the time, I wouldn't know. I would fear to speak in front of people. Maybe I didn't have the right amount of experience. You know, maybe I wouldn't have the answers to the questions that people would have, our viewers would have. Um, but now God has put us in this position because we're ready for what's now in front of us and for what's coming moving forward. So trust us on that. Trust us on that. Right before we disconnect, I want to go ahead and drop a heart for everyone. Um, if anyone needs a prayer, we got Pastor Carlos here, who's super anointed, and he can go ahead and drop a prayer before we disconnect.
Yeah, if you need a
What?
prayer, definitely drop it in there. If like Jay has said before, if it's something where it's like, okay, I don't want to put my business on blast, but I need like a prayer, more
Yeah,
like, I want it here, but I want the who it is to be in private. Little
bottom
question
right
mark,
corner.
bottom right hand corner, tap it, type it. Jay will get the message. We'll pray about that right now while we have people connected, because again, where 2 or 3 are together, his
Yeah,
presence is there. He does answer. We have seen it in the past. We know that he's done it before. We believe he'll do it again, because we know that he's faithful. So you have that
and
opportunity.
just
We'll leave it there for a couple of minutes for people to put
yeah,
that in there if they feel that they need it.
and just a reminder, we're on every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, and 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time,
West
West Coast.
Coast.
So I always put the notification on every post. Um, I usually post on a daily basis, and on the bottom left corner of the post, you'll see the reminder for the live for the following week. Um, And what I have to start doing is putting more of it on the story. That's what I have to do. And for those, please share if possible. Put it on your story. Send a request. Send it in the DMs. Just let others know because I'm sure we all need it.
Yeah, it's always remember it's always there on numerous platforms, just so that you guys know that it's accessible to anybody that you need to get it to. So just remember
Yeah.
it's there on Facebook for those that use Facebook that don't use Instagram. There's those on Instagram that need it. Is right here. And for those who don't use any social media platform but use YouTube to stream their videos, like most of the world
Hmm.
does, it's right there. You don't need an account or anything unless you want to subscribe, um, follow, hit the little notification bell, whatever it is that you want to do to be on it. On top of the game, getting the info as soon as it comes out. That's the only reason you ever need an account. But if not, anybody could watch. Simple link, you send it over, they could watch it, no account. So just know we've got a number of different ways to make it accessible if you wanted to share.
Big bro. So we have a prayer request.
Okay.
Um, it's a prayer for healing depression and to receive positive blessings. I also want to add to that. Let's go ahead and add for healing depression and
It's
positive
healing
blessings.
depression, like healing depression, right? Like
Yeah,
healing depression itself.
yeah, healing depression. But I also want to add to it. Let's go ahead and also pray for those that go through anxiety, um, depression, as mentioned in that prayer, insecurities, discomfort of any kind, um, like just in general, man. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So let's just extend your hand wherever you are right now. You have a moment right now to just go ahead and extend your hand. If you feel that this is for you, this is an opportunity for you to receive. Even if you don't feel that this is for you, it is an opportunity for you to receive as well. Um, and just extending your hand and praying this. Remember, where two or three come together, He is there. So we know that God's presence is here in this place. We know that Jesus is there, right where you are. You may be suffering with depression. You may be suffering with anxiety, or all the different, mental health issues that kind of come with all of that. The
Stress,
worry that
everything.
you have, the stress, the fear. It's just a lot that encompasses. And just remember, it's important to be able to have God. He wants you to know that His presence is there with you all the time. It's the beauty of it. The presence of God, He's always there. He doesn't leave you, Even when you feel that you're drowning, He's reminding me of the disciple Peter when he asks him to walk on the water, and Peter walks on the water, and he of it's very, you know, the enemy sometimes is funny, and I'm trying to go ahead and get this thing going because we got our people that are on what you call it, that are on Facebook and YouTube, who right now have that little pause. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right now have that little pause. So I'm going to get them back on here. Let's make sure we got them back up and running. Yeah, there we go. Let me make sure we got them up and running because there's
No,
somebody
do your thing.
receiving somewhere.
Yeah.
There's somebody receiving right now somewhere, and the enemy does not want that person to receive. And he cannot make it any more obvious than what he's doing right now. And it is ridiculous. So we're going to make sure that everybody that has to be with us right now is with us. Let's see, our people on Facebook, I believe, are receiving it again. I'm just going to make sure 100% right now. Just bear with me 1 second, guys. Whoever that was for, I know you were starting to receive it already.
We're praying heavy.
We're going to make sure
again,
that you receive. We're going to be praying heavy. Here we go.
for depression, anxiety, stress, discomfort, everything.
Let's see.
Trials.
Yeah, there we go. We're back in there. So let's go. This is something that the Lord wants to do right now in this moment, and we're going to make sure to take care of that. So, enemy, you ain't taking it today. Satan, we know that you're here in this place right now trying to go on to Instagram accounts, trying to make sure that people don't receive what they got to receive, but we don't play that game. We are hip to whatever you're trying to do right now in this moment. That's why we come harder. That's why we're going to come where, again, we're 2 or 3. And right now, where we've got double digits hooked up with us right now, ready to go ahead and pray over that situation, where those people are, the presence of the Lord is. So right now in this moment, I want you to realize, if you haven't realized it already, that Jesus is right there with you right now in this moment. And what the enemy has been trying to do for you in this moment is he has been trying to keep you blinded and making you think that no matter what, you deserve that depression. You don't deserve to be free from your depression. You don't deserve to be free from your anxiety. You don't deserve to be free from your hurt. You don't deserve to be free from your stress. You don't deserve anything, any kind of liberation, any kind of deliverance in terms of whatever your situation is. And we're not playing that game. We've come as believers. We come as believers knowing that there is one who can free from all of that. That's not Jay Mejia. That's not Pastor Carlos. That is Jesus Christ, who's right now, wherever you are. He's not just in my room. He's not just where Jay Mejia is right now. He is wherever you are connected, because wherever you're drowning, the same way that the disciple Peter was drowning, he was right there to pick him up. And he's right here in this moment, right now, ready to pick you up. That's what it's about. He says, you've been thinking about walking with me the same way that Peter knew that on the natural, he could not walk on that water. He says, I know you have been thinking about walking with me, but you know that in the natural, it does not make any sense to walk with me. In this time of depression, in this time of struggle, in this time of pain, in this time of anxiety, in this time of worry and stress and everything that comes, you know it does not sound natural for you to be able to go and rely on me when you haven't relied on me in the past, and it's better for you to go figure out how you can do it on your own. And that's been a lie that the enemy's been wanting to keep you in, because he wants you to continue to be depressed. He wants you to continue to have that affliction that you deal with. It's not a thing that you deal with it every day. It's a thing about that you deal with it multiple times a day. Some of you guys can't even let go of it the entire day. It feels like it's on your mind and it's heavy on your heart 24/7. And the Lord Jesus Christ says in this moment, I took that up on the cross with me. I went to die so that I could rescue you. It does not matter if 99 were saved and I needed to go for one. I am coming for you because you are the one that I want.
Amen.
You're the one that I want. You're the one that I'm coming for tonight. It's not coincidence that you're with me tonight. It's not coincidence that you're here. This isn't about anybody that's connected right now. This isn't about Jay Mejia. This isn't about me. This is about God is talking to you right now in this moment. He's saying, I've been trying to get your attention. And you know that I've been trying to get your attention. And you haven't been listening. You know that I've been there, but you haven't been listening. but I'm there. I promised that I wouldn't leave you. When that depression's been driving you crazy, when you haven't been able to sleep and I've been wanting to give you rest, when you've had those tears, when you've had that overwhelming sadness, when you felt that there is no one that understands you, I understand. I suffered for that. Being God, I made myself man to suffer for that because I wanted to understand you. I wanted to be a God who understands. And I know that it's been unbearable. I myself told the Father, if you can take this cup from me, because I had a moment in which it was too much. And you've been wanting to tell me to take this burden, take this cup from you because it's been too much. Your anxiety has been too much. Your depression has been too much. Your stress has been too much. Your insomnia has been too much. But you've been afraid of asking for me to take it away because you haven't thought that you deserved it. I don't take this cup away from you because you deserve it. And I want you to understand that right now. I'm not taking your suffering away. I'm not taking your depression away. I'm not taking all of these things away from you because you deserve it. I'm taking it away from you because I love you and by my grace. Because you are taking a step of faith to ask me to take it away. You've been wanting to ask. You've been wanting to seek me, and tonight you find me. So I ask you this evening, will you let me take that cup from you? And let my will be done. If you don't want to let it go, I can leave it in your hands. But I know that you want to let it go. Jesus asks tonight, the Holy Spirit asks, will you let me take that from you? If you're willing to let me take that from you, just reach out your hands. I want you to just reach out your hands. I want you to do something. It's going to be prophetic this evening. I just want you to just, in an act of faith, just reach it out. Just reach it out. Like, I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. And the reason that you've been feeling that you don't want it anymore is because that doesn't belong to you. It was never yours. Don't make yourself think that the situation that you caused, the road that you went down, all these lies, they're lies. Don't make you think that that makes it that you deserve it. Jesus is right now just saying, extend your hands, give me that cup. That cup that's full with your stress, that cup that's full with your tears, that cup that's full with your sadness, that cup that's full with your anxiety, your insomnia, your depression, all that burden that you've got on top of you, give it. Just let it all out in there and give it. Because I promised that I would exchange that with you. And the burden that I will give you is light. and that in me you will find rest. I want you to rest. I don't want that for you anymore. I want you to have the peace, the love. I want you to have the faith. I want you to have that patience, that kindness. I want you to have that trust in me. You give me that cup and you just receive me. I got this. I take it all from here. Thank you, God. If we're going to give y'all an opportunity, if you haven't received Christ in your heart, this is an opportunity to go ahead and do that. He doesn't just want that cup. He wants that relationship. He wants that spot right here. He wants you to understand what you have rights to. So if you feel that he's like knocking on that door and he's like, it's time to just take it in, just let me in, and you've been feeling it, I want you to just extend your hand out. And this is an opportunity for you to do this by faith, because what you're doing right now is by faith. You don't deserve it. It's by faith. And he's better than you can ever think. If you haven't received Christ in the past, this is your opportunity. Just extend your hand out. Know that you're not going to be perfect, but by faith, you can declare, Lord Jesus, I accept you as my Lord and Savior. I recognize that you gave your life for me, that you died on the cross. You took up all my sin on that cross and died for me, and your blood was shed so that I could be made righteous and whole in you, so that I can be forgiven. And tonight I accept you as my Lord and Savior. And I recognize that you died for my sins, and that through you and believing in you, I have eternal life, and my life will never be the same. And the Father will see me as righteous, not because I'm perfect, but because you reside in me.
Amen.
In the powerful name of Jesus, amen. If you prayed this tonight, I want to congratulate you.
Amen.
Because you're going to see, you're not going to be perfect, but he perfects himself in you. Or he perfects you with him being in you. Know that the enemy can lie to you and say that you don't deserve it. It does not matter. Let it go. Let it go. He's going to want you to go back. But that line that you do, with that prayer that you just did, you drew a line in the sand by giving him what's not yours. You've been bag holding what the enemy has wanted you to bag hold and made you believe that it's yours, and you gave it to the one who can truly take it away. I just pray over you that you'll have peace, that you'll feel the love of God, that you'll know that he never leaves you, that he's always there. He's literally just a hand extension away to pull you up. Doesn't mean that you won't have difficult times, but you can rest knowing that he is with you. He won't leave you. And if you seek him, he will guide you in those difficult times. I bless each and everyone's life tonight in the powerful name of Jesus. I bless your households. I bless your places of work. I bless your families. I declare that the blood of Jesus is over you, that the plan that the enemy has to destroy you will not prosper. And I declare, Jay Mahia, you know, God spoke this the other day, and I believe that this belongs to everybody, especially in this point in the year that we're in. You're going to start seeing restoration and resurrection in areas of your life that you have thought have been dead, that you have thought would never come back to life, that you had thought had been long gone. God has something different to say. He's the one that can restore. He's the one that can resurrect, and he will do that. And not by yourself, but in Jesus' powerful name, he will do that. Whenever you see the enemy coming with his lies, just say, in the powerful name of Jesus, I believe that that's a lie. You'll never be the same. God bless all of you guys, for real.
Amen. God bless you, bro. And God bless everyone. I hope, man, that was deep. That was deep. So I hope that touched everyone. Sally, yes, definitely. Designer, for sure. You're very welcome. But mostly thank the man above.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not about us. We've done nothing special. God just spoke because he wants y'all. That's all it is. It's not about us. Seek him, and he'll handle the rest. So
that's right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Once again, we really appreciate you all. For those who are watching on Facebook and YouTube as well, on Instagram, we will be back on next week, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, and 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Hope everyone has a great night. Get that rest. You need it. Tomorrow's another day. Remember, all problems are temporary, no matter what they are. I hope you have a great rest of the week and a great weekend as well. And we'll see you next week, Thursday. All right? Have a good night. Appreciate you all. Love y'all.
God bless you guys.
God bless.